Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio, your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Hello everybody, and welcome to my 10th episode of This Is Floxed. This show is dedicated to raising awareness for fluoroquinolone toxicity syndrome, which is also known as being floxed, which just means that a person is experiencing the adverse effects of a fluoroquinolone antibiotic like ciprofloxacin or levofloxacin or many others. Today is my final show of 2025, which will focus on the core of fluoroquinolone toxicity, which is mitochondria damage. We will talk about what is mitochondria damage, what is mitochondria, is there any real way to fix it, and what are the options for anyone that has mitochondria damage, not just those that are floxed. My special guest today is Tom Benson. He is the CEO and founder of Mitrix Bio Incorporated, and a serial entrepreneur and scientist who founded 4 successful software, hardware, and science startups. He has a long resume of successes, but his interest in mitochondria began when he worked at Stanford Linear Accelerator National Library, also known as SLAC. This interest led Tom to explore the recent fundamental advancements in the scientific understanding of mitochondrial systems of the body. He has published dozens of articles and video lectures on mitochondrial science and cellular energetics, developing original theories on the systemic transfer and distribution of mitochondria and the resulting impact of health. If you've heard anything about the newest advancements in mitochondria, you'll probably be aware of the term mitochondria transplants. Tom will be discussing this, as well as a proprietary bioreactor that his company has created to potentially grow mitochondria. This is obviously a brand new type of regenerative medicine. So for all things mitochondria, please welcome my special guest, Tom Benson.
Thank you so much, Talia. I appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity to come here and talk about what we're doing.
Yes, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. So the best way to kick off the show for today is just to explain what mitochondria is and why is it so important that it needs to function properly.
Okay. Actually, before I start, I do want to say one thing. I do want to kind of just say a little disclaimer here. Just everybody should keep in mind. I know there's a lot of people in the Flox community who are in a lot of trouble and who need a lot of help, and it's a hard situation to be in. I just want to say this is still very experimental, and nobody is 100% sure of anything yet. We've all been working on it, and I do also want to say that we're really not yet as a company ready to do to do trials with volunteers. We're not funded for that yet. We're still working on getting funding. So I just want to say that up front. There's what we're doing brings a lot of hope, but I also want people to know that there's still a lot of work. So, so what are mitochondria? Mitochondria are tiny little, what they call the powerhouses of the cell. They're tiny little bugs that swim around inside the cells of your body, and they are the part of the body that generates all of the energy for your cells. So when you eat food, the food goes into your digestive system. It gets broken down into glucose and nutrients, and that floats around in your bloodstream. It goes into the cells of your body. The cells get these nutrients, but they can't use that to power themselves. What they do instead is they take glucose and they take oxygen from your bloodstream and they burn them literally in the mitochondria. So mitochondria are literally they're like steam engines, or sometimes I call them little jet turbines. They have little molecules in them that are spinning around, generating energy that the cell can use. And so you can also call them kind of the last part of the digestive system, because they're the part that actually converts the food into something that your cells can use. And they've been around for 1 billion years. They're ancient parts of our cells. 96% or 97% of the energy in your body is generated by mitochondria. Your body is actually 10% by weight, about 10% by weight, mitochondria. So they're a major component of everything. All your nerves, your heart muscle, your leg muscles, everything in your body is packed with these mitochondria, all zipping away, generating energy to keep you going. Okay, so that's what mitochondria are. And I also want to mention that mitochondria have each mitochondria has generally 4 or 5 tiny little mitochondrial DNA in them, which are little rings of DNA completely separate from your normal nuclear DNA, which is what kind of makes you. The mitochondrial DNA are common through your whole family line. They're not really, you don't have individual mitochondrial DNA. That you get them from your mother, and they come directly down from the mother, and they're just used as a little control ring that tells the mitochondria how to do all this energy generation and so forth. So that's what a mitochondria is, and that's what a mitochondrial DNA is.
Yep.
And so
when you and I were talking, you had said there are 3 ways that people can have mitochondria issues. The first way is through birth. The second way is through infections or medications. And the third is through aging. So,
right.
I mean, this affects all of us, whether you're sick or not, we're all going to age. So my question is, can you tell us what kind of issues people see when their mitochondria is damaged? And also, is there a certain number, once you hit 20% damage, that's when you can tell that something's wrong, or there's no percentage? You know what I mean?
Yeah, those are excellent questions. So, and again, this is our internal working hypothesis of how this works. This is everything I'm going to talk about. This is brand new science. It's just been in the last 5-10 years that anybody has discovered any of these things about mitochondrial DNA. And many people will disagree with this. So just so you know, if you go out and ask other scientists, they'll say, oh, no, this guy's all wrong. It's something else. So that's part of being in science. There's always a lot of debate.
I noticed that when I was researching, Tom. It was all over the place. Everyone was disagreeing with each other. So
mitochondria in particular are because it's so, the genetics, the study of your nuclear DNA, that's been around for 50 years and it's pretty well understood. But the study of mitochondrial DNA is very new. And literally there are papers even a year ago that just changed everything about the way we see it.
Yeah.
So, but let me just tell you what we think. We think that the biggest kind of unseen challenge in medicine is damage to this mitochondrial DNA. And when I mean damage, what I mean is it's just like bad sections of the code. It's like if you have a hard disk in your computer, you can have what's called bad sectors, right? Mm-hmm. And if you drop your computer, the hard disk can go, and you end up with this bad section of the hard disk. Or if the computer gets old, it just kind of starts adding on these bad sectors. So we think that there's bad code in the mitochondrial DNA. And as you said, there's 3 ways you can get that. You can be born with it, and that's very well understood. There are many, many children, probably 10,000 children in the world who are born, that we know of, who are born with mutated mitochondria from birth. And I have now people that we're working with who have these families. I actually know one family where all of the children in the family, all 3 of the children, all have these mutations that they got accidentally from their, again, this comes down from the mother. And so what happens is that the mother might have only, let's say, 20% mutated mitochondria, which means that there's actually, out of the all the different mitochondria she got in her body, 20% of her body, the mitochondria in her body, have a mutated sector somewhere, which means they're not working properly. Excuse me, the mitochondrial DNA is mutated, and so that means that person's not making 20% of the energy that she should be making. That woman can have children who have 80% mutated mitochondria. It's just a kind of a random distribution at birth. And so when you have a child that has 80% mutated mitochondria, a lot of the times they don't live past the age of 2 because they don't have any energy to grow. The cells are trying to do all this growing and all this stuff, and the mitochondria can't keep up with it. And so they just die of heart failure or any number of things. Sometimes they grow to be teenagers and then it pops up with their teenagers. Sometimes they make it into adulthood. It just depends on the percentage and so forth. And there's a whole series of those diseases, which we still, again, they're very well understood if you can catch them, but they're hard to find. And we still don't really have good scientific ways for doctors to find those diseases. So that's a new field. Those are diseases like Lee syndrome and MELAS and some others. So those are inherited mitochondrial damage. The interesting thing is, if you look at some of the problems that these children have, they have intestinal issues or heart failure. They have seizures. Their brains they have strokes, all kinds of things where just the body doesn't work well at all. And they have a lot of muscle problems. They have a lot, they can become trapped, bedridden because they can't move because their muscles don't work properly, and their muscles and their tendons are tremendously painful with neuropathy. And the thing that we found interesting was when we looked at that, we saw, wait a minute, there's a lot of similarities to what is happening to people who are floxed, and also to people who have, for example, long COVID. So then we started thinking, well, why would that be? Well, maybe there's problems with mitochondria that you've gotten because if you take Cipro, for example, well, Cipro is a drug specifically designed to destroy bacterial DNA, which is a ring DNA. Well, the bacterial ring DNA is identical in structure to the mitochondrial ring DNA. They use exactly the same chemicals. And so if you're using Cipro to attack bacterial DNA, it's also attacking your mitochondrial DNA, which can leave behind a lot of these mutations. And so then that's where this theory has come up that maybe that's what's something that's contributing to the floxing is this mitochondrial damage. Same thing with long COVID. COVID has been identified as a virus that attacks mitochondria. That's one of the things it does as a virus. So then we looked at what about elderly people, and we found that if you look at the elderly mitochondrial DNA, they tend to acquire what we call random noise or deletions, which you could also call mutations, just because as you live longer and longer and longer, these DNA get noise in the code. And so your energy production goes down as you get older. And when you hit about, generally, if you haven't gotten sick with other diseases, Most people, they hit about 90 to 95 years old, they just die of old age. Most people don't make it past 95, even if they're very healthy. And we think it's because the mitochondrial DNA just reached the end of their life, and that's what old age is. So all three of those things to us look like similar conditions.
So is there like a specific number, and I'm bringing this up because I had a Flox doctor, let's say, tell me that 70% of my mitochondria needed to be damaged for me to notice it. Is that true? Like, that's a lot. Or is there no such number?
I don't know for sure, but I also, the other thing is it could be localized in specific tissues, and this is one of the big problems. Let's say they take a little bit of your skin, or they take some blood sample, and they look at the mitochondria and they say, oh, well, it's not that bad. They look okay. But that doesn't mean that you couldn't have worse mitochondrial damage in your muscles and your tendons, because the mitochondria in your tendons and your muscles might have gotten an exceptional dose of the Cipro. And Cipro is specifically designed to go into muscles and tendons, and also into the bone marrow. So where the different parts of the body have different amounts of this damage. And again, this is true for these children. Some children are born with really high concentrations of this damage in their brain, and they have a disease called MELAS, which is very much focused on damage to the brain. Other children have other diseases that are more focused on the bone marrow. And so it's tricky. You have to, it's all kinds of different places where this damage can show up. And yes, 70%, it could be 50%. I'm sure 50% damage, if it's concentrated in your tendons, could cause major damage. So
yeah. So one of the questions is, like, in the Flox community, so many people that are Flox try all of these different modalities, like red light therapy, intermittent fasting, hot cold techniques, supplements, CoQ10, whatever, PQQ. Do you believe that any of these repair mitochondria, or at least have some part in the repair?
Yeah. Okay. So there's a couple different issues going on with mitochondria. There's the genetic damage to mitochondria, which is very hard to fix. You can't use a chemical to fix genetic damage. However, what happens from the genetic damage is the mitochondria doesn't run as well and doesn't produce as much energy. Well, some of these chemicals might help the mitochondria work a little better. So it's not that you're repairing them, you're not fixing them, but you can kind of boost their productivity a bit. And so I do think nutrients can help a little, but it's not a fix. It's just kind of it's a help, but it doesn't fix the problem. The only way to fix the problem is to repair the genetic damage itself. And that's tough. Okay.
So then what you're saying is that for those of us that are Floxed, as much as we supplement, that we're going to be limited. It's never going to completely fix us.
Right, because you will have, if in fact we're correct and you have this genetic damage that you've gotten from Cipro, which again is still, not completely proven, but a lot of people believe it. If that's the case, then there's no way to fix that genetic damage with a simple chemical. You need either gene therapy, or what we're working on, which is bioreactor technology. You need something that can provide you with fundamentally, you need new mitochondrial DNA that have been grown or repaired. Okay. And by the way, I want to mention that there's red light therapy, for example. A lot of people have tried this, where they have these red lights that you shine on the muscle, which is like a LED light, infrared light. I'm a believer in that. I think that can heat up the mitochondria, which causes them to run just a little bit better. You get maybe 5% more. Other people have tried things like using drugs that expand the blood vessels and make them a little bit bigger, so that you get more oxygen and more nutrients into the cells, and it helps the mitochondria with more supplies. So, I mean, there's a lot of ways you can kind of help. I think that you can help the situation, but again, to repair it, you need genetic repair.
Yeah. And how do stem cells come to play in this? Like, how is it different or similar to mitochondria?
Okay. So it's a very good question. Stem cells actually manufacture new mitochondria. That's one of their functions.
Oh.
The stem cells in your bone marrow, of course, is the biggest repository of stem cell. Your bone marrow is all stem cells, or not all, but it's got a ton of stem cells. And they make your white blood cells and your red blood cells and your all kinds of exosomes and platelets and all kinds of things are manufactured in the bone marrow by stem cells. That your stem cells, when they are making all of these products, that sometimes they are manufacturing new mitochondria. For example, when your bone marrow makes platelets, each platelet has in it generally about 4 to 5 little mitochondria that are embedded inside the platelet in order to give it a little bit of power that it needs to do what it does when it gets activated out in the body somewhere. So you've got a trillion platelets in your bloodstream that are all carrying 4 or 5 mitochondria in them. And so that means you have 5 trillion mitochondria in your bloodstream that were created in the bone marrow. And when your platelets are activated, or when they reach the end of their lifespan, the last thing they do before they go off to be recycled is they spit those 5 mitochondria out in little vesicles, what we call extracellular vesicles. And those are then absorbed by other parts of your immune system. Okay. Mm-hmm. So your bone marrow stem cells are creating mitochondria. They're putting them in the platelets. The platelets are like delivery trucks. They carry them around the body. And when you have some damage or when they're not needed anymore, they squirt out these little mitochondria and they float around. They get absorbed by the other cells nearby. And this is what we would call mitochondrial transplantation, which you mentioned earlier. So your body, I mean, as we're standing here right now, my body and your body, there's billions of mitochondria being transplanted through our bloodstream, from one part of the body to the other part of the body. Okay. If you get stem cell therapy, the stem cells that you get, let's say you get an injection of stem cells, those new stem cells will create new mitochondria and release them near to the tissues nearby. And so when you get stem cell therapy, you're getting a mitochondrial transplant.
Oh, did everybody hear that? Because I didn't know that.
Yes.
I didn't know that at all.
They actually they have videos. They actually have little micro videos of the stem cell comes up to a cell and it builds a little nanotube to the cell. And you actually can see these little mitochondria marching down the tube.
Yeah.
From one cell to the other, and it's repopulating but it only does it if the cells need it. And so there's some sort of signaling mechanism that the cells put out a signal that say, hey, I need replacement mitochondria, and the stem cell comes over and gives them new ones. So it's almost like getting a jump start on the freeway, or you say, hey, I need gas, So yeah. It's fascinating stuff. The problem with stem cell therapy, however, is that it's very hard to inject enough stem cells into your bloodstream to give you enough mitochondria to make any kind of a difference.
Right. I knew you were going to say that based on our conversation about how many donors would be needed for a mitochondria transplant.
Yeah, it's that's the thing, is that it's quantities of mitochondria. You were talking about hundreds of trillions of mitochondria.
Yeah.
In your body. You have about a quadrillion mitochondria in your body. So it's 1,000 trillion.
Yeah. So I guess that'll just bring us to my next question is, can you give us more details about the mitochondria transplant project that you're working on, as well as this pretty neat, if you ask me the way you describe it to me, your proprietary bioreactor, which would help create mitochondria?
Well, the bioreactor, and by the way, I just want to say we're not the only ones working on this. There's a very major hospital chain in New York called Northwell Health, where they have a lot of patients who are looking for, and these mostly children, who who are looking for this. We're working with Northwell, and we actually have a national initiative, I guess you could call this, to create a bioreactor to create mitochondria externally to the body. So there's a lot of people, all over the world working on this. And there's hundreds of universities who are doing mitochondrial transplantation now. This is a very hot topic. It's been covered in The Economist, and there's been a lot of, I've seen all kinds of discussion on this idea. So the idea of the bioreactor is that, if you have all these people, for instance, people who are floxed, or these children, or people who are elderly, and they need all these mitochondria, where are you going to get them from? There's no easy source. You need a lot of them. It's not like a drug where a little bit will fix the problem. You need large quantities to replace the broken ones. And so where do you get all those mitochondria from? The only way that we can see to do it, there's not enough donors, and it wouldn't be ethical anyway. You can't go around just asking for young people to donate their mitochondria. That wouldn't be ethical. So the only way to do this is you have to grow them.
And when people are giving you their mitochondria, what is it? It's blood that they're giving you, plasma? Just for the viewers that might not understand it, when you're talking about these donations, how are they giving you the product?
Well, for example, if you get a platelet donation, which if you get in an accident, you end up in the emergency room, they can give you a platelet donation. That's done all the time. If you're a soldier out in the field, the hospitals in the military, they all have platelets available to donate, and the platelets are used to help you rebuild your tissues and to save your life in some cases if you are injured. When you get a platelet donation, you automatically are getting mitochondrial transplant, because you're getting the mitochondria from the donated platelets that are released into your body. So in theory, if I had an infinite supply of platelets, I could give you a very, very large mitochondrial transplantation. Although, again, the problem is you can't inject enough platelets to make a big enough difference. So our concept is to use your own stem cells. So we would take stem cells out of your body, there's various ways to do that. We put them into what really is a big tank. And anybody who knows about stem cell therapy can tell you how this works. There's facilities all over the United States where there are these giant silver tanks, and you put cells in them, and you give them the right kind of material, and you grow them. So you take your stem cells and you grow 1,000 times more of them. And then we have a manufacturing process where you then take those stem cells after they've been grown, and you break them open, and you extract the mitochondria from that they've grown inside of themselves. And you can then inject the mitochondria directly into the bloodstream or into muscles or various other ways. Turns out that mitochondria can be injected from the outside world into your body, and they will go through the blood, and your cells will absorb them. And this has been done many times, and it's been shown, it's been used in human beings, it's been tested for a variety of diseases. So this is a very popular new technique. So again, with someone who's floxed, the biggest problem is that we're talking about enormous quantities of those. You might need to replace 10, 20% as a minimum. With these children, if they have 80% damaged mitochondrial DNA, we would try to get them back to 70% or 60%. And they're not going to become an athlete, but that'll keep them alive. All right, they won't. That'll help them, prevent them from dying of some kind of disease. So that's the goal, is to try to push that ratio back. In the case of someone who's floxed, the goal would be to reduce the amount of damaged mitochondrial DNA in the muscles and the tendons and the other tissues, to try to make them more functional. Okay. And nerve endings are very sensitive to mitochondria.
Oh, good. Yeah.
So that's the idea of the bioreactor.
Yeah.
But I do want to say that that's completely new. I mean, we've built them on a small scale. We've built them on a benchtop, but none of this has been scaled up yet to human scales.
Right.
That's what we're
So,
working on now.
so the bioreactor would be to do mitochondria transplants in volume, right? For many people, because it takes so many donors to do one transplant. And the other thing is, let's say you have 70% damaged mitochondria. You don't have to replace 70%, do you? You just have to give it a kickstart, like say 20%.
Push it back, push the
Right.
ratio back, okay? And people will say, well, how do we know if it works? Well, I think you would know. I mean, that's especially people who have chronic pain and chronic damage. I mean, they're very tuned into what's going on. And of course, people who are floxed have a real problem with this, where you end up going down, kind of downhill, right? Which is also very true for these children, by the way. They have this terrible problem where they just, if they get the flu or if they get pneumonia or if they get a cold, it's very well understood in that field that they'll come out of it after a couple of weeks being very sick, and they seem to have dropped a couple of notches and gotten worse, and they never get back. Okay, that's very common, I think, and that's again, I think, an example of a mitochondrial damage syndrome, because every time you get sick, your body is burning up whatever it has, and it's struggling, and of course the damage gets even worse. So if we could just push you back a notch, then we could try to reverse that process and get you back up that ladder.
Yeah.
And I also want to mention, if someone gets sick, if the problem with having damaged mitochondria is that your immune system doesn't work very well. Most children who have this mitochondrial mutation, most of them die of an infection.
Mm-hmm.
They get pneumonia. They're in the hospital with pneumonia because their immune system doesn't work at all, which again is very similar to somebody who's 80, 90 years old. If they get pneumonia, they can die very easily. If they get COVID, they end up in the hospital. So mitochondrial transplantation is a very good thing to use temporarily when someone is sick. You give them a burst of new mitochondria to their immune system to help them recover faster so that they don't drop even further. So it's also just a way to kind of halt the decline.
Right. And I know the viewers that are watching this right now are wondering, is there any test that I can see how bad my mitochondria is damaged?
That's really hard. We have done some early development of a test. Let me just explain why this is so hard. If you go to the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, for example, or if you go to Mayo Clinic, if you go to one of the really big high-level hospitals in the United States, they can test for mitochondrial mutations for these children because they know exactly where to look.
Mm-hmm.
Say, oh, that's a mutation in this sector or that sector. And those are really well understood. And so they can look at a range of locations and look for this 80% damage. The problem with Cipro poisoning or with age related is that the damage is randomly all over the place, and they don't, right. And that's not something that those tests are designed to look for. They're not designed to look for random damage. And so that's why we've been missing this for 30 years. Okay. Because they say, oh, we don't see any mutations. Well, you have to look at all these random places. So we put together a test with someone who does this kind of testing and started looking at elderly people, and bingo, we found that there was this enormous amounts of damage, and that as you get older, you can see more and more and more damage. So there's actually a definable curve of genetic damage, what we call deletions. Mm-hmm. And we have not yet applied that test. That's one of the things we have on our list. We want to use that for people who have who are floxed, but again, it's very expensive, and we just haven't had the funding to do it. All these tests, none of this has been automated, so it's not like we can just do it quick. It takes weeks of lab technicians working to do one test. It's
Right.
very hard to do.
So how far away is something like this from happening in reality? And what does your company need to make this happen? Because I know you've already invested so much money to get you to where you are. And obviously you need funding to move forward to be able to do this. So,
Yeah.
um,
Well, and I want to say, by the way, I have an absolutely amazing team of scientists from all over the country. I've got some of the best scientists in the world who are working on this, and they're all working, with no pay. They're doing it for equity, and they're doing it just for science. We have raised so far $4 million, our company, which is very little over 5 years, just to get things figured out. But to do any kind of treatment like this, you need a lot more than that. And unfortunately, investors are not really keyed into doing mitochondria. It's very new, and so when you say, what do we need? We need funding. That's it. I could have started this. Really, I could have started this project. I could have started the bioreactor development on a much faster scale even a year ago. We were ready a year ago, but there is no funding. And that's also true, by the way. There's no funding for anything right now. The whole system is kind of locked up in the United States. There's no funding for any.
And just to clarify, funding isn't just for mitochondria transplants for sick people. The funding also, like your mitochondria transplants, extend beyond that, right? To anti-aging, stuff like that. Like you were talking about lotion that you put on someone's cut and it healed on the same day that it had mitochondria in it. So you're looking at all types of things related to mitochondria.
Mitochondria are a huge opportunity medically. They're a huge opportunity. And by the way, there's a lot of people even in the federal government who are big fans of mitochondria right now. Mitochondria is kind of a hot topic, but there's this kind of thing where nobody quite knows how to do it. And there's a lot of other people. It's very noisy. There's a lot of people making claims and saying, oh, well, if you use this chemical, it's going to fix mitochondria. And so it's always hard in the beginning to figure out who to back. And what we're doing is hard. The idea of building a bioreactor and transplanting a lot of mitochondria, that's just very hard. And it sounds like science fiction. So we have great support from doctors and scientists, but it's hard to find people to put money up to do more work on it. So
yeah. And before I ask the last question, because I see it's coming to time, I just want to clarify to everybody that's watching this is that, you've done so much work to get to where you are so far, which is far along. Even though you still have a long way to go, it's still far along. But also, you need additional funding for this bioreactor to mass produce mitochondria.
Right.
But also, there's so many barriers to entry for you because once you do that, then you have to work on the cost efficiency of mitochondria transplants. So we won't even get into that because people watching knows that the cost would be astronomical at the beginning. So that's something that you have to work on as well. So there's so much stuff you need to do to make this happen. If there's any investors out there, please contact Tom because I think everybody can benefit from this, not just people that are floxed and sick. Other people that are in general wellness and health can benefit as well. So
well, again, look at there is a very strong component of mitochondria in long COVID, and there's a lot of people who believe this affects chronic fatigue syndrome, and there's Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and ALS, heart disease, kidney disease. A lot of these are what they call diseases of aging. Most diseases of aging are triggered by or have a strong component of mitochondrial damage. And like Alzheimer's, for example, there's many, many people who are absolutely convinced, some very top people who are convinced that Alzheimer's is triggered by degenerating mitochondria in the brain. So there's a lot of opportunities here. And this is huge for the economy because, we've got so much chronic disease in our economy right now. We're really good at fixing people and protecting them from dying, but we're not so good at getting them back on their feet afterwards. That's the truth.
Yeah.
And it's not just America. It's true of all. I've talked to people in the UK, and they said, we've seen the math. I mean, our system is starting to collapse because there's all this chronic disease, and there's no way, it doesn't seem to be a way to fix it.
Right. So my last question to close out the show, I always end with a message of hope.
Yes.
So for those that are watching, there's so many people that are floxed right now that are hanging on to every single word that you're saying, because we're so confident that mitochondrial transplants will benefit us. Can you give the viewers a message of hope that we are able to repair our mitochondria, even to some extent, even without this? I can't believe that we take a fluoroquinolone, one pill, and we're damaged forever and we'll never get better, right? So can you give us a message of hope to end the show?
Of course, yes. I mean, first step is don't let them get worse. Don't let your mitochondria get even more damaged. And that means avoid getting sick. Truthfully, I tell people, I say, wear mask, don't get the flu. And I'm sure most people already know this. And yes, you already know you can't overexert, and because that will damage the muscles even worse. But I do think there's hope. And I have people in our inner group who are floxed, who are helping us, who we're working with. We are and there's other companies. It's not just us. There's other people working on this as well. So this is a movement, but it's just a question of inertia. How long does it take to get there? And as you said, fixing mitochondria by taking better nutrients is much easier than mitochondrial transplant. Mitochondrial transplant is very hard. It is science fiction. It's like getting a heart transplant. Really, I tell people, getting a mitochondrial transplant, it's not a drug. It's like getting a heart transplant or a liver transplant. You're bringing in a lot of new tissue. So,
one quick question.
But it's hard work.
The V word, vaccine. Can people, does that damage mitochondria? Any kind of vaccines? I feel like I can't say that, but
I don't go there. I don't want to talk about that. Yeah.
Okay, because people are like, should I get my flu shot? Should I do this? This is the question that Floxies ask all the time, and I don't have an answer. I just don't do any of it because I'm too scared. So
yeah, and by the way, I'm not a doctor, so I can't give medical advice. I can't.
Okay, I was just curious if you had an opinion on that. They're always asking me those questions, and I know.
I just can't go there. I don't know, and even if I knew, I couldn't say anything because, as I said, I can't give specific medical advice. Whatever we develop, we'll then have to figure out how to work with doctors to apply these treatments. I can't do it. I'm not a doctor.
Okay, so the biggest takeaway I'm taking away from your message of hope is, don't make your mitochondria worse when it's already damaged. And I know a big one that you mentioned to me, I'm just going to say it real fast, is smoking. You said it's so bad it like deletes something.
Smoking is terrible for mitochondria.
Yeah. So yeah, we gotta watch our ionized radiation, like all of that stuff. So
don't go to Mars.
Yeah.
Go to Mars, you're gonna burn your mitochondria out from the radiation.
Or get 20 CAT scans.
And the other one, of course, that's very hard for someone who's floxed is stress. Stress causes chemicals in the bloodstream that cause the mitochondria to get damaged more quickly. And so people who are highly stressed tend to burn out quicker. But of course, when you are when you're in terrible pain, of course, that causes stress. And that is why pain is so destructive,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being here today, Tom. I really appreciate it. And if anybody has any questions, they can reach you at, I think she was putting your information up here. And you obviously can reach out to me, and I'll reach out to Tom as well. And this is his website, Mitrix. It is good to talk to you, to know there is some hope even before these mitochondrial transplants come out. And any investors looking to help, please reach out to this company as well, because I think this is like completely revolutionary.
Our company or anybody doing mitochondrial work,
Right,
I think it's like we need to invest in the entire field.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, thank you so much, and I sure appreciate the chance to come and talk to your audience and try to tell them what's going on. So,
thank you. It was a pleasure. I appreciate it. I'll be in touch. You know that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. I hope this was very informative. And I see the award on the screen, and I wanted to say this year has been one heck of a ride. And thank you to the network for giving me the Global Humanitarian Award in Broadcasting. It is an absolute honor and a privilege to be on this network. And I just thank you for everybody. Thank you to the network and to everybody that watches me, and more to come in 2026. Happy holidays, everybody. Thank you.
USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents Tracy Cram-Perkins, a dementia caregiving survivor teaching how to balance care with peace of mind. #1 resource for dementia caregivers. It's the book Dementia Home Care: How to Prepare Before, During, and After. Over 17,000 copies sold of this must-have guide. And now a testimonial from Talia Smith.
If I was to describe this book to someone who is going through a similar situation, I would underscore how important it is to have some sort of a tool or a guidebook to help you through certain stages. And there's so many, it's such an unknown topic to the average person. And to have this as a reference is essential. It's going to help you get through it personally, as well as help your loved one manage.
To learn more, go to TracyCramPerkins.com. Tracy Cram-Perkins is an award-winning author. She's also the host of Dementia Home Care television show. Watch it here on USA Global TV and Radio.
Listen, babe, now, listen, babe, now. Listen, babe, now, listen, babe, now. Listen, babe, now, listen, babe, now.
In a noisy world, true connection begins with listening. Elevated listening transforms every conversation in just 5 simple steps. Pause and breathe. Set your intention. Listen with curiosity. Reflect back. Agree on one next step. Join the listening mentor on Let's Finally Talk with Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, the listening mentor, where we help you find inner peace, one conversation at a time. Streaming every day. Let's Finally Talk TV show with Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, only here on USA Global TV and Radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channels to watch and engage with all our content.
USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents Steve Klein Art at steveklein.art.
My name is Steve Klein, born Manchester, England, 1953. My quest in my lifetime is to create artwork from my soul and the deepness within my wildest dreams and fantasies. In 2012, my heart stopped when I was given too much anesthetic for a minor knee operation, and this near-death experience took me to another multidimensional world, an out-of-body experience, and I was given the gift of being blessed by an overwhelming, burning passion to become, for the very first time in my life, an artist with an eternal, passionate desire to bring my art, which I've named multidimensional, subliminal, freeform art, to the world. As only 3% recover from what I experienced, and now in my golden years want to release my cosmic, vital energy through my art to allow people to be a part of my cosmic dance.
To learn more, email roccogoodwine@gmail.com. For VIP pricing, mention USA Global TV and Radio.
Which of these 5 statements sounds mostly like you? 1. I often wake up in the middle of the night worrying about my future. 2. I'm angry or resentful towards a specific person. 3. I have anxious, obsessive, compulsive thoughts throughout the day. 4. I have an addiction like smoking, drinking, shopping, sugar, or social media. And 5. I feel that I'm wasting away my life. Hello, I'm Dr. Alkistis Agio, and for over 25 years, I've been coaching and training people from all over the world to transform their fears, insecurities, anxiety, and anger into mental and emotional freedom. I'm confident that my simple 3-step method based on Greek philosophy can help you to transform into the joyful, confident, free human being that you deserve to be. I want to invite you to join my weekly online coaching group to finally get the results that you want. Look, you've tried it alone so far and you've had some okay results, but let's face it, you're still feeling stuck right now, spinning your wheels. Einstein said that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Now, unless you realize this as a fact, that you are a prisoner of your own mind, you can't move forward. I'm here to support you, as well as the whole community that we are co-creating. Stop feeling stuck. Stop feeling depressed. You don't have to do it alone, and alone isn't working anyway. Sign up today and I'll meet you on the inside of our amazing weekly group call. I guarantee that you'll make progress from the very first session.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/usaglobaltv. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Music by Johnny Dyes. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.